welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for joining us, and if not, thank you for sticking around. So it's 2023, and I really hope that this video would have came out before the new year happened, but life didn't happen that way, and you know, it's fine. We're here. So I wanted to share with you guys some of my goals for the upcoming new year, and just sharing how I set goals, and hopefully this will help you with your goal setting and how you're planning out this coming year, especially with your language goals, your study goals, everything. I just hope that it works out for you guys. Jumping right into it, one thing that I will let you guys know is that I did not set goals for the entire year of 2023. I am only setting goals for the first half of the year, and let me explain why I'm doing that. So there's actually two different reasons, maybe three. The first and very most important reason is the fact that right now I am on a gap year and I don't have a lot of commitments outside of working on the weekends. And that means that my schedule is really open and I can really dedicate a lot more of my time to doing so many different things. But I will be starting law school in August, and I'll probably start preparing for that this summer, so that I know that my schedule is going to drastically change, and I actually don't know how it's going to change. So it didn't make sense for me to set goals for myself that I knew halfway through the year I wasn't going to be able to dedicate as much time towards them. So I do plan on halfway through the year restarting and reevaluating once I get like my class schedule and kind of get used to law school a little bit. I'll reevaluate and see what I can fit in or how I can fit things in. But I really wanted to spearhead and see how much I can get done in this first half of the year. The other reason is that I felt like doing the halfway point would work out really perfectly, because I am planning a trip to Germany towards the end of June, beginning of July. So that's like the half of the year. And since one of my goals is working on my German, I know that having that reach at that point right before I go to Germany makes a lot of sense for me. Another thing is that even aside from law school and everything else, we know that life happens, and setting a goal for the entire year is hard because we don't know what the year is going to bring, and it's always hard to like stay committed for an entire 12 months. So staying committed for 6 months to something seems a lot more attainable for me. I know last year I worked on doing more smaller goals. I did monthly goals, and even with that, it was very difficult to remember to go back and like set new monthly goals. So I'm trying this out this year to see if this helps me and to see how it all works out. I wanted to talk about how I set my goals and basically why I set them. So for me, if you guys know me, I have a lot of languages that I've been working on for quite some time, and there's a lot of times where I kind of put some languages aside or bring some back, and there's a lot of push and pull with that. So what I really wanted to focus on this year is figuring out where I once was with each of my languages and just really solidifying that. And I had to go back and think about where exactly I want it to be, what exactly should I know, what do I feel like I should be at this point. And so yeah, so mainly what I'm doing with most of my languages is going back, and it's a lot of review, which is not my strong point. I hate reviewing. I am terrible when it comes to reviewing, but that's what I'm working on this year. So yes, so for my goals, first and foremost, obviously, like I said, German is going to be my baby this year. This is where a lot of my effort is going to be going into. So I set the goal of reaching B2 level in German. When I set goals, I do not have to like make it there, but it's more of just kind of a guideline to kind of just look forward to. So I set this goal because in the past I've studied German for years, and when I was taking language courses in university, I did take the B1 level language course, and I would have started the B2 level, but I didn't take it. I think I took Chinese instead. But I do feel like at this point I should have gotten to that B2 level, even you know, with all of my practice and things like that. So I do think that it's possible. I think it's something that I'm really capable of doing. I just have to really focus in on it. So most of what I'm going to be doing for German this year is I'm using the Deutsche Welle website, where I'll be reviewing all of the concepts from A1 to B1 in these next 6 months. And then I also have my intermediate short stories for German that I want to do, just because I do want to get into reading German books. I know you guys know that I was reading in Spanish and I've been reading in French, but I do want to be able to read in German this coming year. That's one of my goals, is to be able to read in each of my languages. So I'm working on the intermediate short stories in German first, and I want to get through that before I can feel comfortable enough to read an actual book. And then also just to focus a lot on auditory input, which is my downfall for a lot of my languages, is that there was a series on Netflix that I was watching in the past that I didn't finish when they started adding new seasons. So I do want to get back into watching that, just because even when I was still taking beginner classes in German, this series was something that I was able to understand. I would watch it in German with German subtitles, and it was really helpful, and I was really able to understand and do really well with it. So I want to continue to use that as I'm progressing, and also just watching, YouTube videos and things like that in German, and just getting some native content and content from other learners and things like that, just to pick up on some new things. As you guys know, I am not a super active, big time vocabulary person, so it's not like I'm gonna be taking extensive notes when I'm watching TV. I definitely use watching TV and watching YouTube videos as a passive way of learning and just training my ears to understand the language. And another thing that I'm going to be doing is doing a whole lot of conversation practice using apps like Hello Talk and Tandem. I have a few friends on Instagram that I practice German with recently, so I will be doing a lot of conversation practice, and I have my family in Germany that I'll be practicing with and trying to chat with as much. And of course, my biggest goal for German is that when I go to Germany this year, I will be trying to use German as much as possible. In the past, I've been kind of lenient and relying a lot on English, but this year I do want to see how much I can push myself to do actual German the entire time, so we shall see. My other goal is to kind of secure the level of B1 in Portuguese, and that's because I started learning Portuguese last year, as you guys know, and I progressed very quickly in Portuguese because of its similarities with Spanish. It allowed me to start having really in-depth conversations from the beginning. And even as far as I have the short stories in Portuguese book as well for intermediate learners, and even as a beginner, I was able to understand it pretty easily. So I do think that getting to that B1 level is going to be not too difficult for me. So I do plan on doing that. I'm using Busuu, which, if you guys know me, you guys know I love Busuu with all of my heart. So I plan on using Busuu to really continue and learn a bunch of new things, but a big goal of mine is to actually practice what I'm learning. So I'm going to continue to work with my language partners and using Hello Talk, Tandem once again, just because they have voice forms that I've recently gotten kind of into being able to participate in and listen in and things like that. So I want to make sure that I'm in both Portuguese and German voice forms so that I can continue to understand and practice speaking and kind of gain that comfortability. Then also just watching YouTube videos. So I have a goal here that says I wanted to watch 2 YouTube videos per week in Portuguese. So that would be really helpful. And then also just because I keep a streak on Duolingo, because I don't know, I like the concept of having a streak. I want to do 2 Duolingo lessons per day, but that's pretty much just my warm-up to get into my Portuguese studying. So, working through the book and Busuu, and then going into conversations, just starting with Duolingo, because I like to lead myself into different languages since I'm studying so many languages each day or each week and things like that. So having something like Duolingo kind of just gets my brain into, okay, we're no longer doing German right now, we need to switch into Portuguese mode, and we're going to go into Portuguese and then switch back and continue from there. So my other goal is to just improve my comfortability with French. I don't really plan on learning or like studying French that much. I do want to go back and review some grammar concepts just to help me to improve that comfortability, so that I'm not thinking so hard about different conjugations and things like that. Because when I originally learned French, the grammar was a lot to me. And I actually started to understand French grammar a lot better when I got into Spanish grammar, and it started to make sense and I made those connections. Except the only thing is that I didn't go back and figure out how to actually use them now in French, now that I understand. So when you have things like, like the conditional, and you have like subjunctive and things like that, it made a lot more sense to me in Spanish. So now I have to go back and make those connections in French, and also relearn the conjugations. I learned the conjugations in the past, but now I don't really remember which ones go with which. Like, I can conjugate a verb in all of the different ways. I just forget like which one's the conditional, which one's the future, things like that. So I want to go back and refresh those. I know I have a list of like different grammar points that I will work on, because I have my French grammar book from when I first took intermediate French in university. So I plan on using that to like kind of draw myself and things like that, and going through what I need to brush up on and things like that. I also have a few French books that I do plan on reading this year. So my goal for this 6 months is to read at least 3 French books. We shall see how that goes. And there's a French series that I have been wanting to watch for a while, and I have not watched it. So I plan on hopefully watching that. It's going to be hard because I don't really watch TV that often anymore, because I'm always reading now. But I do want to make sure that I am getting just the cultural and the listening input in as well, and seeing if I can watch a YouTube video weekly. And once again, lots of practice conversations, just so that I am really forcing myself to use this language and to interact with it in a bigger way. So my surprise language for this year, it's a surprise to me as well, is that I'll be dabbling in Italian. So when I say that I'm dabbling, it kind of just means that I am going to work on like the very, very basics. I'm not putting a lot of effort into this language. I'm not trying to be fluent or anything at this point. It's just so that in the future, if I go back to it, I already have the ground levels, So like, for instance, you guys know I studied Russian and Mandarin and Korean last year, and all of them I have like, very basic level, like basic understandings of like the beginnings of those languages. So for instance, I can read Russian. I don't know what it says, but I can read it. I can make the pronunciations and things like that, so that in the future, when I want to learn Russian, I already know how to read it, and I can focus a lot more on vocabulary and grammar, and I can skip that first level of this is what this letter makes. So that's basically what I'm doing with Italian. That came about, it was really funny. Someone on Facebook in one of the language groups I'm in, they kind of just asked to have an accountability partner for Italian for the year. And I said, you know what, that sounds fun. So I'm dabbling in Italian. There's not much to it. I'm just, a little Duolingo, a little Busu, and some chatting here and there, and whatever happens with that. It's not a big deal. And I'm also maintaining my Spanish, which isn't like a real goal because I maintain my Spanish anyways, but I do plan on reading at least 1 Spanish book each month. And I have to finish La Casa de Papel. I know like so many people that I told to watch this show years ago, and like they've passed where I'm at on the show. So I need to catch up and finish watching that, because I've been telling myself that for like the past 2 or 3 years that I was going to catch up on La Casa, and I have not. And then I have language calls in Spanish. I practice Spanish all the time, so that's not a big deal to me. It's gonna happen. So yeah, so then those are my language goals. My other goals are really generic, your average goals that you have for the new year. So I do want to incorporating exercising into my weekly routine a little bit more. So like I said, I'll be working on weekends, which is Friday, Saturdays, and it's a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of on your feet, a lot of things like that. So I do plan on only doing a small workout Monday, Wednesday, so that I'm not too tired from work or before work, the kind of thing. And also just working on waking up earlier. If you guys know me, I sleep in. Anyone that has tried to message me, you guys know that I am usually asleep in the mornings, but I am going to try to slowly wake up earlier. So like my goal is to wake up at 8 a.m. And this is once again leading all the way up until I start law school, and I do want to have better routines. So, you know, I kind of have this plan of like each month making it about 30 minutes earlier until we get to like May, June, and I'll be at 8 a.m. and then making that into more of a thing. And another thing with that is just kind of having a routine. So yeah, and then my other thing is finishing 3 books a month, because I really got into reading, but I didn't, you know, I'm a slow reader. I don't read fast. I am a very slow reader, and I want to improve that and become able to read a lot more. As you guys can see, I have like 100 books that I have to read because I keep buying more and I need to finish the ones that I have. So I need to read faster, or just read more, basically. So basically, all of this was to say that my advice to you when it comes to setting your goals for this year, or however you plan on setting your goals, if you want to do a half a year like me, if you want to do monthly like I did last year, basically more important than it is to set your actual goal and seeing like where your end point is, you want to focus a lot on how do you plan on getting there, and also just how do you plan on figuring out if you've made it. So, you know, I know you guys have heard a lot about setting measurable goals. Like you want to have a goal that's measurable in some sort of way. So that's why I use this the CEFR labels when I'm setting my goals. They don't, like I said, I don't really care that much about them, but they're nice to kind of like have a set thing. So a lot of the language courses and things that I use to study languages kind of separate things with those levels. So that's kind of how I'm measuring my goals. Just getting to that level and being really comfortable. So when I say like, you know, that B2 level is really just all about the comfortability of speaking a language, in my opinion. It's about the comfortability of being able to speak the language and not having to spend so much time, like, you know, looking up definitions or translations, or trying to figure out how to conjugate verbs, or like thinking really hard about word order, especially for German. And you know, so that's what I mean when I say I want to like be at this B2 level. I want to be having conversations and I'm not constantly stopping to check. Like I do not assume that I'm ever like, not ever, but in this 6 months that I'm going to be at a point with my German where I don't need a translator at all. You know, like there's always going to be words that come up that you don't know, and that's even with English. So yeah, so just kind of like have like a measuring point, some way to measure your goals. So if you're using the type of app, kind of say like, oh, I want to get to this point on this app, or you know, if you are following some sort of course, or you know, reading or anything like that, kind of just have something that you can look back and say, hey, I did it, I made it to this point, or hey, maybe that goal was too far-fetched. And that's the other reason why I say like trying to create your schedule of how you're going to do it will help you figure out if this is really attainable. So what I did when I was working on setting this goal for German was that I actually started a little bit of it in December, because I wanted to see the Deutsche Welle lessons. I wanted to see if I actually like them, for one, and also just timing out how long it takes me to finish a lesson. So obviously, like I said, I'm starting from the beginning just to get that, like, I'm only thinking of the word in German right now, but that base layer of the language that I learned so long ago, wanting to review and like start from those beginnings. So I'm in like the A1 levels of the Deutsche Welle lessons. And, you know, I know that I can finish like the whole 4-part lesson in one sitting in one day. So I know that getting through that A1 is going to be a lot faster, especially, you know, and I'm probably sure that the A2 is going to be the same thing. Whereas like, I haven't checked the B1, but I'm sure it'll get harder. So I will have to, you know, slow down, and I probably won't do the full 4-part lesson in one day. I might take that to be over 2 days or over a week or something like that. So that's why, you know, another reason why I'm only setting this like first half of the year goals, because I will have to tweak as I go, and, you know, my timing will be different. So yeah. And then another thing that I wanted to say was that you really want to create habits. I think that creating habits rather than like a to-do list for yourself is going to be a lot more helpful. So, you know, if you have a goal of, oh, let me think of something that I have on my list. Basically, like, for instance, I have on my list, you know, reading books or something, or, you know, with wanting to wake up earlier and things like that. For one, my wake up earlier thing is very tangible. But like I said, I've created this habit of I want to wake up at this time during this month, and that gives me an entire month to get used to getting to that time. And then I'm going on to my next month, and I'm going to get used to waking up at that time. But on top of that, I'm also working on creating a routine for myself, because I want, when I wake up, you know, I want to make sure that, like, okay, I'm drinking some water, I'm doing this, and that starts my day. And it's not just, all right, my alarm went off, it's time to pop up. And then with reading, you know, like I said, I want to read 3 different books, but how do I plan on doing that? I plan on making sure that I spend a certain amount of time where I'm reading a certain amount of pages each day for my books, because I'm creating this habit of, at some point during the day, I should be reading, and I should be reading and focusing on reading for a certain amount of time in order for me to reach this goal that I have for myself. And just also, like, that goal in itself of reading three books a month, it's actually a part of the bigger goal that I have of reading these books that are on this shelf. So I've already, like, just in how I planned it, turned it more into a habit than a goal. You know, I have this habit that I want to achieve of reading 3 books a month. And I already put in that, like, one of those books are going to be in Spanish per month. And, you know, everything's kind of connected. And that's my main takeaway for you guys. My goal that I did not mention for you guys was that I plan on posting on YouTube twice a month. You guys can hold me to that, but that is my goal, is that I want to be able to post here more often and continue to help you guys out and share my journey and let you guys know how I'm doing with these goals along the way. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I hope that this was really helpful, and I'm really interested in finding out what your goals are and how you plan on achieving them. So if you guys can let me know that in the comments. And also, if you just haven't set any goals yet, or you've kind of set goals but you need some help figuring out how to make them measurable, how to make them into habits and things like that, comment that down below, and I'll try to help you guys out in the comments as best as I can. So yeah, as always, thank you, and I hope you guys can like, subscribe, and just let me know what you guys think, what you guys are looking forward to this year for my channel. As I said, I'm posting twice a month, hopefully. So if you guys have any ideas of things that you really want to see, or you really want to know about, or just anything at all, let me know. Bye.